Hi, welcome back to LZ23 Strength. I'm Steve. This is where we exert ourselves, we elevate our health, and we evolve the mind and body. Appreciate you taking a look. Today we're going to be talking about breathing. It's something that we've done our entire life, and yet, as the title suggests, I'm just starting to learn how. And it seems like a simple thing, and hopefully you can learn from my bad example. Here we're always trying to improve upon our health span and longevity. And this is an area that I want to give and devote a lot of attention to because I think for 61 years I've not done everything properly. Just to give you an example, we're going to talk about mouth breathing, holding your breath, even stuff like wearing clothes too tight. All these things can have a negative effect on such things as blood pressure, and that's something that I've had some issues with blood pressure. And I think it's a combination of my breathing, my eating, my sleep deprivation for 30 years, and it all kind of I think is culminated in that bad area of blood pressure. So trying to fix everything little by little, and we're going to talk about a number of things why breathing is important. I'm going to first start with a story. My father, he had interesting viewpoints of life, but I don't think I ever gave him the credit when I was young for how much he knew. And believe it or not, back around 1978 to 1980, he used to tell us all the time, when you're outside, take deep breaths. And he had a heavy Hungarian accent, so he would say, breathe, breathe deep. That's how he would talk, which you'd get a kick out of him if you could hear him. So, anyways, back then I was somewhere 14, 15, 16, and I thought, yeah, okay. I was a super athlete back then, and yeah, we breathe all the time, all day, every day, I thought, and whatever, I'm outside now, I'm breathing. But now, he didn't have any of the studies or reports, or even back then, it's not like he didn't have the computer to go on. So where he got this understanding, I don't know, but he knew that deep breathing was something we should do and beneficial for us. So that's what I'm going to first talk about. What are some of the good effects of proper breathing? It can help with everything from better digestion to reducing stress, enhancing our sleep, especially it's linked to better sleep if we breathe properly. And I'm going to just stop here for a moment so I don't forget. I bought something called hostage tape, and there's a whole bunch of different kinds of tapes, and it's not literally hostage tape, but it's to help us. We want to breathe nasally. Everything that I see, and it's not just biohacking and longevity people, but it's experts that in the field that talk about these things, that we want to breathe through our nose. And I think if you snore at all or you have sleep apnea, it brings on all kinds of health consequences. So we want to train ourselves to breathe through our nose. And that's what this hostage tape, or there's a whole variety that you can look up. I haven't used it yet. I've actually had it for probably 2 months, and I haven't even opened the package yet. But I just recently saw a good suggestion on a podcast where it says you don't want to jump right into it. It says maybe 5 minutes for a couple days, just wear it around the house. And it's just kind of training us to breathe through our nose and keep our mouth closed. We don't want to be mouth breathers. It causes all kinds of health situations, even dental, bad breath it can do. So we want to train ourselves to breathe through our nose, nasal breathing. So I'm going to try that, and hopefully in the near future, in a few months or several months, I'm going to get back to you and tell everybody how my breathing is. Have I learned to breathe better? Even working out, I kind of hold my breath, I think, at times. And my wife has noticed this when I've worked out at home in the basement. She's always telling me, breathe, breathe. So it's a lifetime of improper breathing techniques and habits that I've done. And a fellow at work talks about our bad habits can become cemented routines. So I'm trying to take the sledgehammer and break that cement so that I can breathe properly. Anyways, getting back to the good effects, it can boost cognitive function. It's funny how everything's interlinked. We talk about diet, exercise, sleep, so many different things that affect our physical health, but also our cognitive health. And so proper breathing can affect that as well. And specifically heart health, definitely our blood pressure, heart rate variability, all these things can be affected by our breathing properly. So on the flip side, if we're not breathing good, we can bring on all kinds of health situations that we don't want, can increase stress and anxiety. Sometimes we think the car breaking down or some major event at work or financial, that's what brings stress on. But even something like shallow chest breathing can trigger like a fight or flight response in us, and that can increase our cortisol, which we've talked about before, and it's a hormone that's stress related, and it has some good benefits, but too much, too often can also have detriment to us. So can bring on stress. Obviously, if we're mouth sleepers, our quality of sleep definitely can be affected in a bad way, where we're going to be snoring, and if we're married, our partner's not going to like that. Also, we can, if it gets too bad, we could have sleep apnea and even wake up exhausted, have fatigue. As I mentioned before, dental problems we could have, bad breath. So definitely, definitely something that we want to give attention to. I'm going to talk about this, but not everything I'm talking about in this episode is non-expert. As I mentioned, I'm learning, 61, and I'm just learning how to breathe. So a lot of these things are things that I've researched and found. Slowly going to try to implement. As I mentioned, that's the key with anything we do, is we want to be able to implement them in our lives. So that's something to keep in mind. But there's different individuals. There's a fellow named James Nestor, has a book on breathing. I haven't purchased it yet, but that's going to be a project for me to dig into that. There's many things on the internet that you can find, and specifically on YouTube. The Wim Hof method. Um, there's different types of deep breathing that if you wake up in the night or can't fall asleep, that you could lay down and do this type of deep breathing. I think there's an official name called Yoga Nidra. I know that's just on the top of my head right now that I've heard it. It might be wrong. Sorry if it is, but just a basic deep breathing method. I'll try to get the names and then talk about it in another episode, but can actually help you maybe get back to sleep. But the improper breathing is something that you can do tests to see if we're being affected by it. Technically, we want to have our breathing come from our diaphragm. So when we're mouth breathing or chest breathing, that's all doing the opposite and kind of pushing down on the diaphragm, so that's not where our breath is coming from. And there's things that we can do to assist that, but proper breathing involves using the diaphragm. It's a dome-shaped muscle beneath our lungs, and it's for slow, deep inhalations. So one of the suggestions that was given to test ourselves, if you lie on the ground, you put one hand on your chest, one on your belly, and you take deep breaths through your nose. Technically, if you're using your diaphragm, your belly should be rising more than, you shouldn't feel it. Your chest shouldn't be moving as much as your belly is moving up. So that's a test you can do to see if we're we're more chest breathers or if we're breathing properly. And the breathing also can affect our blood flow efficiency, and that's vital for something called nitric oxide. And as we age, we produce less and less nitric oxide, and there's different individuals that talk about this more in depth. Dr. Nathan Ryan is a really good one, or Nathan Bryan, either Nathan Ryan or Nathan Bryan. I apologize for the last name, but if you look up nitric oxide, I'm sure his name will pop up, because we need nitric oxide to have good blood flow for good heart health, basically for life. And there's different things in the environment and things that we might not be eating enough of that can affect it as well. And our breathing definitely comes into play with that. So do some research on that, and we encourage you to consider doing deep breathing exercises. There's also something called the Wim Hof method. And if you just go on YouTube or on the internet in general, you'll find so many different things dealing with breathing. And I'm going to, as I said, I need to work on this big time as I'm learning and trying to incorporate this. And I think this is another important area for Healthspan and longevity. So I'm going to be giving it a lot of attention, and I encourage you to do the same thing. Especially when it comes to blood pressure, as I mentioned, that's a vital one, and it seems to be the biggest trigger. Now, when it comes to lifting weights, I think I end up holding my breath a lot, and that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to basically exhale during the exertion, which is called the concentric phase. And then while you're inhale, as you're lowering, and that's the eccentric phase of the movement. So for an example, on a squat, you want to exhale as you're standing up, and that's the hardest part, lifting yourself up, especially if you have weights on your shoulders. You want to exhale when you're doing that, and then inhale as you're lowering back down into the squat position. Same thing if you're doing a push-up or a bench press. You want to exhale as you're pushing the weight forward or up, and then as you're lowering it, that's when you inhale. I think I got this all messed up from a young age, and I think a lot of times I'm holding my breath. So it's something definitely that you don't want to do. And something that goes along with that goes back to when I first started doing all this. I wanted to basically be a bodybuilder or have a bodybuilder's body. So to get bigger, I never did any steroids, never eat any sports enhancing drugs. I just tried to eat a lot, and it did work. But along the way, my stomachs would get bigger as well. Sometimes way bigger than I wanted, but always got bigger. And to counter that, I would wear tight jeans, trying to suck the stomach in, tight belt. Again, another area that's terrible for your blood pressure, which I had no idea back in the day. Now I know. So you don't want to be wearing super tight things. It's not good for your blood pressure. But then also working out, being about, in my head, being a Viking bodybuilder. That's my coined phrase that I made up for it. Always be sucking the stomach in, which if you just naturally kept it at a good level and you worked your abs, wouldn't have to suck it in. But when it's bigger than you want it to be, psychologically, you're always, especially if you walk by a mirror, you see it and you're like, holy, suck it in, suck it in. All bad for you. There's actually a syndrome called the hourglass syndrome, and that's basically sucking in your stomach all the time. So the remedy for that is to not have a stomach, which again, for 61 years, I didn't fail at that all the time, because there were times I had a small waist, I had abs, and I didn't really do anything. It was just natural. But most of my life, I've tried to get bigger, so the stomach was always a little bigger. So always the tight pants, the belt sucking in the stomach. So that's one aspect that's detrimental and doesn't work good for proper breathing. So the hourglass syndrome, it's caused by habitually gripping the stomach. So if we're self-conscious about it, or bodybuilders are, they're trying to flex their abs. I think for a normal human, we're just trying to maybe look better aesthetically, and definitely not a great thing to do. So these are just a couple of ideas, some simple things to think about. Deep breathing is good. One of the things I've seen that's recommended is to slowly breathe in through your nose for 5 seconds. Then for 5 seconds to breathe out. If you can do 5 seconds of breathing in and do 10 seconds and pursing the lips so that it's a slow release is encouraged. There's all sorts of methods. I encourage you to do some research for yourself. Check your breathing, especially at night. You don't want to be mouth breathers. You can look into the different types of tape. And when I pictured it, I pictured some big piece of tape like you're really trying to keep somebody from talking, but they're just little pieces to train to keep our mouth closed if possible, so that we're nasal breathers. That's what we want to be most of the time, and that's why we have the nose. So try to keep that in mind. I'm going to try to give you more information in the future as I'm working on it. So you'll tell you what's working for me, what's not working. But remember, when you're working out, sleeping, we want to breathe properly. And some of these exercises you don't have to do hours or even 20 minutes a day. If you do it a couple times a day for 5 minutes, you'll notice a difference of feeling better. That's what all the research says. And that's what I'm going to be trying to do as well. So appreciate you watching. Hope you learned something. And remember to exert yourself, elevate your health, and evolve in mind and body. And I look forward to giving you more content in the future. And just a reminder for myself, my dad, 30, 40, 45 years ago, that was almost 35 years ago, was right on point to breathe deeply. So check your breathing, research, and leave a comment on this area if you're already doing it. Please smash the like button and please subscribe, and we'll see you again. Have a great day.